Logan McCline spent 10 years training with the sword, but he still lost to his younger brother who had trained for only 3. After that humiliating defeat, everyone branded Logan a failure. His father kicked him out, his fiancée left him, and he ended up wandering as a mercenary with the heavy realization of just how useless he'd been. But fate had other plans. One day he found out his younger brother was set to be executed by the Empire. By the time he rushed over, it was already too late as his brother's head had fallen. Blinded by rage, Logan threw everything into one last desperate fight and died in a magic explosion. Yet even in death, his wish to make things right with his family and to avenge his brother never faded. Then came the impossible. Logan opened his eyes 30 years in the past with every memory of his future life still intact. This time, he knew what was coming as the Empire's schemes, the wars, and the disasters would wipe out his family and nation, and he wasn't about to sit back and let it happen again. With his second chance, he plans to raise an army, forge powerful weapons, and rewrite history itself. But the question remains, can a man who once failed at everything really take control of fate, or is he doomed to repeat the same mistakes all over again? Let's find out. He wakes in his bed with a sharp headache, confused because he was dead only moments ago. His thoughts break when his servant Rick asks if he is alright. Still unsure of his surroundings, he asks Rick how he could be alive when he clearly remembers dying 30 years ago. Worried, Rick calls for a doctor. Logan sees his family crest everywhere and wonders if he is dreaming, but then his younger brother, Lonian, enters and asks if he is alright. Logan recalls their first duel and how Lonian visited after his loss. Back then, he threw a pillow at him and called him a bastard child. This time, he reacts differently. As Rick tries to take Lonian away, Logan says there is no need for that and tells Lonian to come closer, leaving Rick in shock. Lonian apologizes, saying he should have been more careful, but Logan stops him and says there is no need for that. Instead, he says he should be the one apologizing, but before he can finish the word, she suddenly bursts into tears. Lonian looks confused since the brother who once threw pillows now throws emotions. Our hero starts thinking about how someone as kind as Lonian was killed, how he fought on the front lines as ordered by the kingdom, just to be butchered. Logan tells Lonian that he is sorry and jumps to hug him. Lonian, a bit scared of his brother's behavior, asks him why he's crying before starting to burst into tears as well. Lonian leaves after saying he will visit again. Logan smiles and tells him to rest. When he is gone, our hero looks out the window and thinks that if this is not a dream and he has truly returned to the past, then he must change everything he did wrong. His thoughts are cut short when the maid enters and apologizes. Logan asks why and Rick pulls her away, saying he forgot to tell her Logan was resting. Rick also apologizes and Logan realizes he used to be such trash that he even mistreated his servants. Logan tells them everything is alright since Mary did nothing wrong and asks Rick to bring him a pen and a piece of paper. The servants freeze as if he had just requested an execution order. Logan sighs annoyed and tells him to send Mary out and simply bring what he asked for. Rick brings the items and freezes when Logan thanks him. The master had never thanked anyone before, so Rick blurts out asking if Logan hit his head. Logan shouts that he is fine and orders him out. Rick leaves grinning and tells the other servants that their master is definitely healthy since only a healthy Logan can yell that loud. Although annoyed, Logan accepts the consequences of his actions and knows he must be patient. For now, his priority is to write down everything he remembers about the coming war with the Empire, a disaster that will erupt in 10 years and destroy his family and nation. Preventing it is his ultimate goal. But first, he must deal with the looming threat of territory war, which will break out in a year and drag his family into ruin. Determined to stop it, he sends a servant to tell his father he wants to meet. Logan walks through the castle halls on his way to see his father. Servants bow as he passes, but one drops the sheets she's carrying and falls in a panic, afraid of punishment. Instead of scolding her, Logan reaches out his hand and gently asks if she's alright. She thinks it's a miracle she didn't get her ass handed to her, so she calmly takes Logan's hand. Then she notices the grin on his face, and it isn't kind at all. It looks like he collects skulls for a hobby. Terrified, she drops back to her knees and begs for forgiveness. Logan is stunned and asks her what's wrong, then hits him that acting all nice overnight is bound to freak people out. They'll need time to adjust, and he'll have to prove he's not the same lunatic they knew before. After all, it's not like he can blame everything on his serial killer smile. As he reaches his father's room, Rick announces him. Before entering, he recalls the day his father cast him out and how he once saw him as cruel for not visiting after his collapse in a duel. Back then, he thought his father was heartless. Now he realizes he was foolish. A parent must be truly broken inside to cast out their own child. He greets his father with respect and begins to tremble, wanting to apologize. But he quickly snaps out of it when he sees that Patrick McCline, head of House McCline, shows no reaction at all. For Logan, it's been 20 years, but for Patrick, this is the same face he sees every day. Logan asks his father for permission to train in isolation on the family grounds. His father is surprised, but this is part of Logan's plan to prepare for the regional war. He wants to strengthen the knights and soldiers and create new weapons and methods. For that, he needs money. The McCline clan is large but poor. Logan knows of an incident in 3 months that could bring in a year's budget at once. To make it work, he first needs strength and influence in the court. His father asks if he's planning to run away after losing to his brother. Logan says he isn't running away, just admitting he's been lacking and wants to change. His father points out that effort isn't the only issue and that Logan still hasn't learned. Logan agrees his behavior was also part of the problem, but his father, fed up with hearing the same thing, tells him to leave. Logan bursts into tears, admitting he's been busy blaming everyone else instead of owning up to his own flaws. He calls himself a fool who never grew up and says training might finally knock some sense into him. Once again, he begs his father to let him go. After Logan's speech, his father admits he actually sounds serious this time and not like he is making excuses. He asks how long Logan plans to train. Logan says 3 months. His father asks if that is enough to catch up to Lonian. Logan says it is not about beating his brother and he just picked a short time to push himself, giving a small smile. His father notices the change in him and finally agrees to let him train. Logan thanks him and starts to leave, but his father reminds him that it is still spring and the burial grounds get cold at night. He tells him to stay warm. Logan thanks him again and heads off to train. A few days later, Logan goes to the McLean training grounds, a place only family members can enter, making it perfect for his secret training. He plans to practice the divine sword secrets. In his past life, he memorized the book and burned it so the Empire would never get it. The book with a golden hawk on the cover carried the sacred text of the hero who once killed the evil dragon that ruled the world. Logan later rewrote it in the Independent Army's secret code so only he could read it. If the book was right, mastering the divine sword would make even Aura Masters and Archmages nothing to fear. In his past life, it was too late to learn this because of his age and lack of talent, but now he finally has a chance. The process starts with reshaping the body through life force and then channeling it into the heart to form a core. For most people, that step is impossible, and before his regression, his body would have collapsed. This time, his force feels stronger in every way, and after 3 days and nights of training, he is stunned to see the core forming. As it takes shape, powerful energy rushes through him. He draws his sword as the secret book had said his body and senses were now tuned for swordsmanship. He admits he has no clue how the core forms so fast, but figures that in 3 months he can get even stronger, so he keeps training right up to the final day. In the end, Logan learns only one of the 10 sword techniques in the Book of Secrets, the time-space slash. With just his single-star core, it is the only move he can pull off and he swears to master it. He swings a wave down, and even though he is soaked in sweat, he pulls it off, splitting a huge tree clean in half and feeling proud of what he achieved. Logan says this power is far beyond what he imagined, and no beginner should be able to use it. One strike leaves him exhausted, but it is a strong card to keep hidden. He feels proud of finishing his training goals and plans to report to his father. But first he needs a shower since he reeks like a pig that soiled itself twice. Back at the castle, Logan tries to enter his father's study, but a guard stops him and says Padrick cannot see him right now and asks him to leave. Worried, Logan asks if his father is fine, but the guard answers that family law does not allow even direct blood relatives to meet Padrick without notice, then mocks Logan for forgetting the rule. Rick, trembling like a rat, whispers that the rule is centuries old. Logan says he saw his father 3 months ago without trouble, but the guard claims the man on duty back then failed his job. Logan finds this strange since nothing like this happened in his past life. Through his training, Logan overhears 2 guards mocking him as a coward for losing to his younger brother. They say he would not dare speak up and that the guard could handle any trouble alone. Logan realizes his reputation has fallen so low that even the knights see him as a fool. The guard then tells him to give notice before visiting again. Feeling insulted, Logan thinks it is troublesome since he wants to prove he has changed little by little. He asks the guard for his name while taking something from his pocket. The guard replies that he is Dominan. Logan repeats what happened, pointing out how Dominan used a dead family rule to block him and acted with constant disrespect. The guard is shocked by Logan's sudden boldness. Logan throws a glove at Dominan to challenge him to a duel. The crowd watches in disbelief as Logan mocks him for fearing a supposed coward and calls him past his prime. Rick stands frozen with fear. Angry Dominan picks up the glove and accepts the challenge. Next, Dominan and Logan face each other in the Knight's training pit, ready to fight. 2 guards talk about the duel, saying they cannot believe Logan is challenging a knight when only 3 months ago he lost to his younger brother. They say it will end badly for him. But with his new force powers, Logan hears the crowd betting on Dominan and saying he will not last 10 minutes. Logan accepts that no one expects him to win. Dominan tells Logan he looks calm for what's about to happen and warns him not to get hurt. Logan thinks that even though he dared to fight, he still lacks the guts to insult the family in front of the other knights since he is just a little shit. An image of Rick shitting his pants pops up as he thinks the young master has chosen to fight Sir Dominan, and this might be their last day on Earth. If Logan loses, Rick nearly stops breathing from fear. The referee announces the duel between Logan McCline and Sir Dominan and says they will fight with wooden weapons for safety. He feels uneasy, but Logan refuses to back down, so there is no stopping it. He knows a knight can still smash someone's head in with a stick, and just hopes Dominan takes it easy on the kid. As the duel begins, both fighters take their stance. To everyone's shock, Dominan charges his aura, and the knights are stunned that he would use force against a normal opponent. Rick thinks it is cheating and dreads what will happen if Logan gets hit. The referee asks Dominan to be gentle, but Logan is not intimidated. He says that while the display may scare untrained eyes, it only shows that Dominan cannot control his force. Logan then mocks him, asking if something is wrong or if he is upset. Dominan is angered by Logan's comment about him being past his prime. He was never a great knight and by 40 had retired to run errands while waiting for the day he could rest. Still full of pride, the insult cuts deep. Furious, he leaps forward with all of his force while Rick begs the referee to stop him, but the referee says there's nothing he can do. Dominan tries to strike Logan with his secret move, Mighty Triple Kill, but Logan pins his sword to the ground and mocks him, saying a knight should do better. Everyone is stunned since it happened too fast to see, and no one knew Logan was a force user. Logan tells the referee he wants to give Dominan a second chance. The referee agrees and asks Dominan if he is alright, while Dominan wonders how he could be weaker than a kid. Dominan picks up his sword and tries again, but Logan smacks him in the face and drops him on his back. Logan says he already gave him another chance, and it is time to tuck his tail. As Dominan is about to admit defeat, Logan strikes again, saying he has shown enough mercy to a vassal who defied his superior, and that the rest is punishment. He keeps hitting Dominan while the others watch in shock at his cruelty. The knights are stunned, unable to grasp how he changed so fast. His awakened force and sword skills seem like those of a man who trained for decades. At last, the massacre ends and Logan is named the winner. Later in his father's study, Logan and Patrick talk. His father admits what he saw was impressive, noting his awakening, and asks what happened in training. Logan realizes his father had been watching, though he never expected it, and says he simply cast aside his greed and let everything go. As he trained with that mindset, he eventually felt the force rising within him. Logan reflects that it may sound like a lie, but it was a lesson from his past life, and only when he let go of avenging his family could he awaken to the force, and back then, it did not happen until after he turned 40. His father is impressed that such a simple realization changes him and says he has truly grown, but he is angry that Logan's first act is to assault a knight. Logan argues the man deserves it and asks if he hears the full story from the soldiers. His father says he does, but still thinks it is unnecessary. Logan insists it is, leaving his father stunned, saying the man tries to mock his lord's blood and if ignored, will poison the family's discipline. He thinks about how hierarchy holds an organization together, and when it shakes, the whole structure falters. From 10 years as a mercenary, he knows that with armed men, the only way to control them is in a single strike. He is sure today's event will serve as a lesson to the knights. His father agrees Dominan is at fault for forgetting his duty and trying to fool Logan, but says Logan's response is too much of a gamble, and he should restrain himself for now. Logan is stunned to see his father forgive him so easily since that never happened in his past life. Seeing his surprise, his father jokes that he wants punishment, but Logan says he's fine. His father explains he is not saying Logan was right and warns him never to act like this again without permission, since he has not yet received his rank. Logan agrees with respect. His father then mentions that his fiancée Lena will be visiting soon. Logan acts surprised, but deep down he's excited because her arrival means his payday is near. Not long after, Princess Lena Wolves shows up. Lena walks in and all the maids are stunned by her beauty while the guards eye Logan with envy. She gracefully greets Patrick McCline. Patrick comments on how lovely she's become since he last saw her. Watching from a distance, one man is amazed to see her all grown up. But when he looks at Logan, he finds him completely unimpressed. Lena reveals she has a letter from her father, the Count, and begins reading it. Though addressed to Patrick, the letter is so long that even the guards nearly fall asleep during the 30 minutes it takes. But the atmosphere changes sharply at the end when it reveals a shocking truth. The arranged marriage between Lena and Logan has been cancelled due to unavoidable circumstances. Logan thinks about it and realizes they've been avoiding the truth. The Wolves family was hoping Patrick would develop aura skills, but he's been stuck as a high-ranking knight for over 20 years, plus he is more than the worst at anything. So it's sensible for the Wolves clan to part ways with the McClines. Patrick erupts in anger, convinced the broken engagement insults the McCline name. Lena assures him that is not the case. She chose to deliver the letter herself, fearing the family might misunderstand. With teary eyes, she recalls her childhood at the McCline residence and the cherished moments she shared with Logan. She admits she is bound by her family's decisions and cannot oppose them. With genuine sincerity, she apologizes to both Logan and Patrick. Her words leave everyone stunned, except for Logan and his stepmother, Marianne Caros, who directly asks Lena for the reason behind the broken engagement. Logan reflects that Marianne has always treated him as a rival since she is Lonane's mother. He feels this matter has little to do with her, yet she involves herself for the sake of family honor. Lena dodges the question, explaining that family matters aren't shared with her, so she has no answer. Marianne is furious, concluding that Lena is breaking off the engagement for no reason. Lena starts sweating and offers 3 million gold as compensation for breaking off the engagement. The offer nearly gives Dwayne Pilsner a heart attack, the McCline family's financial man. Our hero loves to hear that, but Patrick nearly loses it, demanding to know how she even thought of proposing something like that. A knight from the House of Wolves steps in front of Lena to protect her, urging Patrick to keep his cool. Patrick acknowledges the knight as a high-ranking guy, showing some respect for his age. Then he suggests it might be fair to trade a rising star from the Wolves for the dishonor to the McCline family. The knight insists that his master, Lord McCline, is an honorable man and wouldn't go after a young princess. Lena says she does not want to buy honor with money and offers the gold as a sincere gesture to preserve friendship between their families despite the backlash to come. Lord McCline gritted his teeth, knowing pushing further would cost him his honor. He saw why Chiron sent the young ones. However, he tells them that the McClines would not persecute them, but they would not accept a one-sided deal either. In return for ending the engagement, House McCline asked only for an apology from Princess Lena Wolves to his son, rejecting any other compensation. The guards light up, calling him a true noble. Logan stepped in, saying that as the one affected, he had a request. He thought they should take the money since an apology alone was not enough. 3 million gold could fund House McCline for a year, and with half their support coming from his stepmother's family, losing it would mean bankruptcy. To him, clinging to honor was madness. He tells his father they must accept the wolves' money, and Patrick grows furious, demanding if Logan is going to make him break his word. Logan sees the pressure on his dad, a high-ranking knight without much influence compared to others in the kingdom. He figures if his dad cannot tackle this, he will not get anywhere. Patrick insists that House McCline is not so desperate they need to toss aside their honor over money. Logan takes a deep breath and confesses it is actually the opposite. They are in serious debt and owe 3 million gold right now, with 150,000 in interest due soon. Without the Kara's support, they are finished, and he feels like they are the kingdom's biggest beggars. But that all happened in his mind, but holds back since it is an official meeting. So he simply says that they need to accept the money for the sake of honor indeed. His father asks if breaking his word is worth their honor, but Logan apologizes and says House Wolves hold greater power. The Count is a Margrave of the East, and taking only an apology would make it seem like they bowed to the Wolves. Lena jumps in, insisting that House Wolves is not irrational and truly respects McCline's honor. Logan shoots back, asking how she can talk about respect when she shows up to break off the engagement. Lena freezes, which reminds Logan of when he once thought she was truly sad about their breakup. He recalls being alone with her in a dorm where she thanked him and suggested they share one last memory before parting. Back then, he asks her to run away with him that night, but instead, she throws a knife at his face. He barely defends himself with his sword, and then Lena tries to humiliate him, questioning why he thinks he deserves to be with her. In the chaos, she accuses Logan of being aggressive when a knight barges in. With his sword drawn, it is easy for her to paint him as the villain. Logan remembers how many mistakes he makes, which leads even his family to doubt him. As a result, House McCline has to apologize to the Wolves and pay them a hefty price. He swears to himself that because of her actions, he will never trust women again. He decides she will not get away with it this time. Logan thinks about his plan to regain his family's trust by proving he has changed. After fighting Dominant, he sees the soldiers ignore insults toward him, and rumors of his loss to his brother spread quickly. He realizes seeking approval will not change their view. With 9 months until the territory war, he knows saving the family matters more than his reputation. He decides to set aside his family decision and tells Lena he'll accept the compensation from the Wolves' family. This leaves Lena shocked. Patrick is furious and confronts Logan about defying him, but Logan responds that he can't settle for empty apologies. He argues that if their honor can be fixed with just words, then those words mean nothing. Meanwhile, Lena tries to salvage the situation and mentions that the Wolves' family wants to honor the will of the Baron, asking Patrick for his choice. Logan sees right through it. He knows she's only saying that to save face for her dad, and is probably freaking out at the thought of paying 3 million gold. Patrick looks down on her and declares that as the representative of the McCline family, he's okay with just a sincere apology, but it's up to Logan to decide if it's genuine. This angers Marianne, and Patrick turns back to Logan, warning him to think carefully about accepting money for his dishonor, as it might lead to more issues with his honor in the future. Without hesitation, Logan stands firm, saying that since he was the one affected by the broken engagement, he accepts the compensation offered by the Wolves' family. This surprises Marianne and visibly upsets Lena. After making his choice, Logan's dad, looking disappointed, remarks that he thought Logan had improved but actually seems to have gotten worse. He blames himself for not teaching Logan the real value of honor. Even though Lovin doesn't tell his dad outright, he thinks everything he's doing is for the family. Later, after receiving the hefty compensation from Lena, Lovin hears a knock on the door. Expecting it to be Rick, he invites the person in, only to find Dwayne, the family's financial advisor. As Dwayne enters, Lovin suspects what's on his mind. We get a glimpse into Dwayne's thoughts as he remembers how he's had to manage the McCline estate with dwindling funds, dealing with soldiers demanding new weapons, and servants running low on supplies for winter. He's had to beg Patrick's in-laws for support, questioning whether he's a financial advisor or more of a beggar. Despite wanting to resign, he feels he can stick it out here for a bit longer, but thinks that the only thing standing in his way is this clueless kid, Logan, who he figures will have to share the $3 million with him. Dwayne tells Logan he just dropped by to say hi and mentions how impressed he was by Logan's confidence yesterday when he stood up for himself without backing down. He thinks Logan might actually be a fitting heir to the McCline family. So Dwayne thinks his sweet talk must have really hit Logan hard since he hasn't gotten this kind of flattery before. He used to do nothing but dumb stuff, thinking it would be easy to get Logan's money. But Logan's not buying any of it. He points out that in tough times, 3 million gold is like a downpour in a drought, and it's really taken a load off his family's mind. Dwayne, still feeling hopeful, doesn't get why Logan isn't relieved too, since it's his money after all. But Dwayne's been a financial advisor for them cleans for 20 years, so dealing with frustrating situations is nothing new for him. He ends up crying, which surprises Logan, making him wonder if things are really that dire for the family. Dwayne explains that they owe Cooper Bank 3 million gold and just the interest is 150,000 gold. But before he can finish, Logan jumps in and Dwayne's stunned when Logan reveals he already knows that. Logan isn't worried about the interest though, since it's harvest time and he figures they can cover it with the crop profits. Dwayne tries to argue that just running the barony costs a ton and they're always strapped for cash, suggesting a little help could change things. But Logan cuts him off, not wanting to hear any of it. Dwayne can't believe it. He thought Logan opposed the Baron for the family's sake. Logan agrees he'll use the money for the family, but instead of dealing with immediate costs, he insists they need to think about the future. Dwayne thinks Logan is completely clueless and insists that Logan should just hand over the cash to him. Logan challenges him, saying even if he pays off the family debts, it wouldn't really change much for them. Dwayne argues that a bigger budget would make things easier for the estate for a couple of years, but Logan points out that they'd probably just end up in debt again since they don't have any specialty products to sell. It's a vicious cycle and he's trying to break it with a plan he came up with, but he needs the money for that. Dwayne is taken aback, thinking this can't possibly be the same troublemaker he used to know. He thought Logan didn't care at all about the family's issues. Then Logan mentions he has a favor to ask Dwayne. If Dwayne helps him out, Logan promises to share some cash to cover family expenses. Dwayne wants to know what he needs help with, and Logan says he needs to round up some mercenaries. Later, Logan chats with Rick, who's surprised to see him packing up again so soon after just coming back from solitary training. Logan says he's heading out to make some money, but Rick reminds him that he's already got a fair bit of cash. Logan insists he needs more, and Rick points out that their father definitely won't let him leave with how tense things are right now. But Logan isn't asking his dad, he's planning to sneak out. Rick is shocked, but Logan doesn't care. He figures if he can't fix his reputation now, he has to gather some external help, especially since he knows what's been going on outside since it's pretty much the same as when he got kicked out in his last life. He decides to find a specific guy as his first move. Rick tries to talk him out of it, saying running away won't do him any good, especially at his age. Logan brushes him off, annoyed, and Rick tells him if he's going to bail, he might as well walk all over him on the way out. Logan just smirks, assuring Rick that he'll be fine and that he's planning to write a letter to their dad so no one will pin the blame on him. When Rick asks what the letter will say, Logan just smiles, which makes Rick breathe a sigh of relief. After Logan leaves, Rick takes the letter to their father, looking like he's about to make a huge scene. The letter starts with a greeting to Patrick and goes on to say that Logan, heartbroken over his engagement, has decided to take a breather, but will be back soon and signed by Logan McCline. Rick, feeling defeated, just cries and hopes Logan comes back. A history of the McCline family is presented, and it seems that even just 200 years ago, the McCline family wasn't in the position it is in now. Their vast and extensive territory once stretched from the neighboring Viscounty to Tesla and the Viscountess of Silben and Peretta, as well as the Bifrost Plains, revered them as rulers and lords of the southwestern area of the Grandia Kingdom. With the size of their territory greatly decreased, the vast storage of grain once known as the McCline Plains was given to the most powerful vassal, and the remaining fertile land was divided among different lords. There were no suitable regional products, and the copper mines that were common in mountain territories didn't exist there. Logan thinks that in this state, even if they were to win the regional war, they would still need to ask for help from House Across. To end this vicious cycle, they need a lot of money, much more than the 3 million he already has. He says there is someone here who can help him. As he enters the Grandia Kingdom's greatest trading city, Kike, a chorus of voices calls out to customers, selling everything from rings and shields to fresh vegetables and fruits. Logan reflects that coming here reminds him just how much of a backwater the McLean lands really are. Based on his memory, the person he is looking for spent his youth in Kike, and the resident said he still lives around this area. The man he is searching for is Goldbug Philip Claude. A description of the empire is depicted. The strongest nation on the continent, the Heirs Empire is a powerful, centralized state built on a merit system. As long as you are talented, regardless of gender or age, you have the chance to succeed and enjoy power and wealth, even as a foreigner or non-citizen of the empire. A perfect example of this is Grandia Kingdom's Philip Claude. He is one of the wealthiest merchants who moved to the empire and is known as the continent's greatest war merchant, often called the trader of the Grandia Kingdom. In reality, while many refer to him as the Gold Bug, he secretly supports those from his homeland, using his fortune to build the miracle of Grandia's sovereign dominion. As Logan strolls through the streets, he notices a boy standing in the middle of the road and wonders if that could be him. The child has just been scammed, and he thinks about how he's going to live from now on since he doesn't have any money left. Logan watches him, recalling how he heard Philip's business had failed because he was scammed, but seeing it firsthand is far more horrible than he ever imagined. The kid even thinks about ending his life. Logan approaches him, trying to make his acquaintance, and asks if he is Philip Claude. Philip replies that he is and asks who Logan is, thinking that with his fiery red eyes and strong gaze, Logan might be dangerous. Logan says that he would like to talk for a moment, but Philip remains skeptical, wondering how this stranger even knows him. At that moment, Philip feels a strong emotion in Logan's eyes, when he has seen countless times before in businessmen, that of greed. Philip theorizes, based on Logan's timing and his worn-out armor, that he must be a mercenary or a gangster. Logan tries to make his intentions clear, but Philip suddenly loses his composure and starts shouting that his payment date isn't due yet, and that his commercial property sale will be finalized in 3 days, so Logan should come back then. Logan calmly assures him that he isn't there to collect debts, but Philip, barking like a mad dog, insists again that his sales haven't been processed yet and tells Logan to go away. Logan once again tries to calm him down, saying that he isn't there to collect money, but rather to invest money. This leaves Philip shocked, asking if Logan means to invest in him. Logan affirms this, and Philip thinks to himself that Logan must be insane. Who in their right mind would invest in someone like him, a complete failure? Yet he also wonders if maybe Logan is telling the truth, so he asks how much Logan intends to invest. Instead, Logan asks him how much he needs, saying that he'll support him enough to repay his debts and make a comeback. Still unconvinced, Philip studies the look on Logan's face and the dirt on his armor, realizing he must have come from far away. Logan once again presses him for the amount he needs, but Philip snaps back, calling him a nasty bastard, saying that if he wants to scam him, he should have prepared properly, just like the other swindlers who had scammed him. He goes on to say that Logan can't be an investor because the crest on his armor clearly marks him as a member of the Southwest McLean barony, a beggar family that lives off the coattails of their in-laws. How could they possibly invest when they can't even repay their own debts? He also warns Logan that if he's impersonating a noble, he'll be executed. Either way, he claims Logan has chosen the wrong man because he is truly broke. Logan, meanwhile, considers things from another perspective. Even though Philip has hit rock bottom, he still makes sharp judgments, just as one would expect from a future magnate. Logan wonders how he can appease him. Philip whines in the middle of the street that he doesn't even have enough money to live or die. At that moment, Logan gets an idea. He asks Philip to pay attention and shows him his aura, leaving Philip stunned. He thinks someone this talented, someone who awakened force at such an early age, couldn't possibly be throwing it all away for the sake of a scam. Philip apologizes, admitting that a lot has happened to him and he's a little sensitive. He asks what Logan really wants with him. Logan replies that he wants to hire him permanently, paying off his debt as a bonus. Philip is skeptical once again, questioning whether the McLean family even has the money for something like that. Logan asks how much his debt is, guessing it must be around $250,000, and then promises not only to pay that off, but also to give him an additional $300,000. He then reveals the money he has been carrying with him all along. Philip stares at Logan and thinks he must be an angel. He agrees to sign the contract. The terms state that if the subordinate Philip ever intentionally harms his master, he will suffer excruciating pain as if his soul were being torn apart. The wish who seals the contract explains that if he doesn't like it, he should awaken his force and become at least a high-ranked knight, or pay a four-circle mage, or even hire hundreds of people at tremendous cost to have the curse lifted. This leaves Philip completely astounded. She sends them away on a positive note, telling them to come back anytime. But Philip wonders if he has just been tricked, realizing that he must have been out of his mind to think of Logan as an angel. After all, Logan just paid for an expensive magic contract solely to make him his servant, when a single page of such a contract is worth 30 slaves. Logan explains that since they have only just met, they can't really trust each other yet. So if he invests a fortune, he needs a reasonable guarantee. He assures Philip that once they build some trust, he will remove the contract. Then he extends his hand in friendship. Philip thinks the contract is a mess with no clear duration or conditions, but with no other choice, he decides to trust Logan for now and shakes his hand. Philip asks what Logan needs him to do, and Logan replies that the first thing they need to buy is monster meat. Philip calls him a lunatic. Logan thinks Philip's reaction is natural, since monster blood and meat contain poison, so burning them is common sense. However, Logan knows that in just a few years, everything will change once it becomes known that a monster blood neutralizer can be made with common ingredients. In famine-stricken regions, people will even begin eating monsters. That winter, cases of disability were treated through monster consumption, and even people with infertility issues saw improvement. Just a year later, the Royal Mage Tower will validate these effects, and monster carcasses will become impossible to find across the continent, especially after they are discovered to enhance virility. Knowing this, Logan is confident he can make 3 million or even more. Philip, however, looks at him disappointed, thinking he must have gotten himself tangled up with a madman and wonders if he would be better off just running away. Logan tells Philip that he wants to buy 1 million gold worth of monster meat, and Philip immediately thinks he's crazy. Logan tells him to calm down, assuring him that he would make money even if he spent more than that. Philip, still doubtful, says he's against the idea and asks Logan if he's truly sure about what he's doing. Logan replies affirmatively. Philip then asks what the price range per unit is to buy clock meat. Logan explains that clock meat isn't worth anything right now. People are mostly burning it due to the lack of storage. So if he orders someone to bring him the corpses, it would cost around 200 gold, which is simply the kingdom's transportation fee. He adds that the transportation fee is charged per unit, so if they transport a large amount of it at once, it will be far cheaper. Philip is impressed by Logan's thinking, realizing that he even considered transportation charges. He agrees that Logan is right about the costs, then asks if, with that unit price and a budget of 1 million, Logan plans to hire a mercenary guild for a kingdom-wide hunt, and then buy everything from them. Logan confirms this and asks if Philip finds anything wrong with the plan. Philip explains that the plan is entirely wrong. Since monster meat is currently being thrown away, he should just hire a merchant guild and buy it at the price of the beef. Problem solved. Philip adds that there are merchants who will sell anything for a profit, and even if the goods are trash, they will compete to acquire them. Confidently, he even says that they'll probably bring Logan all the clock meat in the kingdom, already cut and prepared, once he asks. Logan is amazed by Philip's idea, thinking that his investment is already paying off. Feeling a little playful, he calls Philip an adorable punk for some reason. Philip tells him not to overthink money matters from now on and to leave all financial dealings to him. After all, his own fate now depends on Logan's future. Logan then gives Philip a list of items, cartridges, ironwood springs, and glue, and tells him to stay in Kike and purchase them in bulk. Philip grows skeptical again and asks if Logan is trying to open a toy factory. Logan replies that he has something much better in mind. In truth, Logan is making Philip buy the raw materials for weapons of war. He remembers how such weapons were used in the Grandia Kingdom's invasion during his past life. Depending on the battle conditions, even a mere soldier could keep a knight at bay with those weapons. He also recalls that he entrusted Dwayne with hiring mercenaries before coming here, so just equipping them with these weapons could be enough to gain the upper hand in the regional war. But first, he needs to find a skilled craftsman capable of forging the weapons and an instructor to train the mercenaries. 2 days later in Harone, the city of mercenaries, Logan speaks with Kai Salon, an A-rank mercenary, attempting to hire him as an instructor. Kais responds that he has never trained anyone productively before. Logan reassures him that the job won't be too hard, as he will only be training C-rank mercenaries that Logan intends to hire. Still hesitant, Kais insists that Logan must have heard wrong about him at most, is only guided a few youngsters, and professional educators would be more suitable for the task. But Logan knows Kais can't fool him. In his past life, he worked with him and knows that Kais can wield nearly every weapon and has excellent horse riding skills. More importantly, Kais's true value appeared when he became an instructor. After being gravely wounded and forced to retire, the mercenary squad he trained boasted greater skill than any of their peers. But right now, Kais doesn't seem interested, so Logan offers him 4,000 gold. Kais refuses. Logan raises the pay to 6,000, but Kais still refuses. Logan raises it again to 7,000, still no. Finally, Logan offers 8,000 gold, and that is when Kais caves in, accepting the deal and even thanking Logan in advance. As they talk, Logan introduces himself as the first son of the McLean Baron family. Logan asks if he isn't curious why he's hiring mercenaries from the countryside, but Kais replies that he isn't, so long as he's getting paid. While walking the streets, they witness a man whipping a group of others, shouting that if they're late, he'll kill them all. Kais tells Logan that, as he probably knows, Haroon's nickname is the City of Mercenaries and Slaves. They will see many such things here, as the city is also a massive slave market. Logan says he's familiar with the situation and thinks to himself that he plans to buy a slave at this market. A merchant notices Logan and assumes he must be a clueless country bumpkin. He calls out, offering to sell slaves at the cheapest price. But once he spots Kais, the merchant goes pale with fear. Seeing this, Logan relaxes, realizing it was definitely worth hiring him. Eventually, Logan reaches a shop with more guards than the others and concludes this must be the right place. The old shopkeeper greets him and says he assumes Logan knows what he's getting himself into. Logan replies that he's here to buy a dwarf. The merchant's expression brightens, and he says Logan has come to the right place. He explains that otherworld races are rare, so they take special care of them, and then invites him inside. Logan steps forward, and the merchant shows him a pair of elves, proudly saying they were very hard to acquire. He asks Logan if he has ever seen elves before. The old merchant tries to continue telling him about the two elves, but Logan doesn't care. He simply tells the merchant to give him the dwarf chained in the back of the room. The merchant explains that it's obvious from his appearance that he's a dwarf and assures Logan he will find plenty of use for him. Even among dwarves who are well known as great craftsmen, this one is considered an expert rank craftsman. Logan is a little amazed to hear that and thinks to himself that dwarves are innately skilled with their hands, a race that creates and fixes objects and finds meaning in them from youth until old age. An expert rank dwarf is even beyond what he was looking for, which means he doesn't even need to worry about the work he intends to give him. Logan inquires about the price, and the merchant tells him that since the dwarf is expert ranked, the price starts at least 200,000 gold. Logan glares at him and asks if he looks like a pushover. The old man nearly soils himself and quickly lowers the price by 50,000 gold. Kaisalon observes how fast Logan made the old man drop the price. The dwarf looks at Logan and remarks that what he did was unrelenting, but Logan considers it nothing more than basic. The dwarf then asks where they are going. Logan replies that he'll take him to the McLean estate in the southwest and that he'll be making the things he requires of him. The dwarf responds that he suspected as much. He explains that while dwarves are indeed known for their craftsmanship, this is not the case for slave dwarves. Despite belonging to a race of craftsmen without passion, they cannot create true works of art. Logan thinks that he wants to instill that passion in this dwarf and tells him that if he does his best for the next 20 years, he'll send him back to the mountain. He adds that 20 years is nothing for a dwarf's lifespan anyway. The dwarf is happy to hear this and is about to thank Logan when suddenly another slave cuts himself loose and starts running away from his master. Logan notices the scene, but the escape doesn't last long. The slave doesn't get far. As a soldier manages to catch the runaway slave, Logan realizes the boy looks familiar, a blue-haired, blue-eyed slave. Suddenly, he remembers and accidentally speaks his thoughts aloud, making Castellan wonder what he's saying. Logan is stunned, wondering how this could be possible, meeting the noble slayer here of all places. He recalls that in his past life there had been an immensely famous aura user in the kingdom. Once a slave, this man ran away after killing his masters, then went on a murder spree, slaughtering nobles and knights alike, before disappearing into hiding for the next 10 years. When he finally reappeared, he had mastered aura, proof that he had transcended his humanity. From then on, he made it his life's mission to kill every noble in his path, earning the fearsome title Noble Slayer. Logan thinks to himself that the slave escape incident happened about a year after he became a mercenary, so according to the timeline, this boy should indeed still be a slave right now. If I rescue him now, I'll have a future aura user on my side. But there's a problem. The boy is an unstoppable homicidal maniac. Logan reasons that if he ever becomes a lethal weapon that might even turn against his allies, he could simply lock him up. As the slave master raises his leg to strike the boy again, Logan draws his sword and stops him, catching the master by surprise. Noticing Logan's family crest, the man hesitates, realizing he must be a customer, and instantly grows submissive. Embarrassed, the slave master tries to excuse himself, saying that goods weren't listening, so he had to discipline them, then asks how he can be of service. Logan says that he wants to buy some slaves, specifically the two children. The master warns him that because they are rare red and blue-eyed children, the price will be hefty, and asks if he's sure about it. Logan asks the price. The master replies that it's at least 10,000 gold each. Logan frowns. A sturdy young slave usually costs around 300 gold. Yet this man dares to set the price 100 times higher for two emaciated children, one of whom looks on the verge of death. Considering the worth of the future noble slayer, 10,000 gold would actually be cheap, Logan thinks. But there's no way this man knows that. Logan offers 500 gold for each, already higher than the market price for a healthy slave, and says that should be more than enough. The master tries to haggle, complaining that at that price he won't even recover the money he invested. Logan grows annoyed and asks the master if he thinks him so stupid as not to know what a slave costs. The master nearly soils himself in fear. Internally, he curses Victor, thinking that the boy is always causing him trouble and will surely continue to do so in the future. Reluctantly, he accepts Logan's offer. Caistlin carries the injured boy on his back, remarking that it's impressive how quickly he managed to get up, since his wounds shouldn't allow such a fast recovery. Logan agrees, saying that the boy truly got back on his feet in no time. In reality, Logan has been quietly releasing force along the way to heal him, a technique even more effective than the magic of most low-level priests. Still, Logan is stunned when he realizes the other child might have sensed his aura, something even Caistlin failed to detect. He dismisses it as a coincidence. Suddenly, Victor jumps from Caistlin's back and tries to attack Logan. But before he can even land a punch, Logan catches him by the neck and coldly tells him that he doesn't know if he is full of spirit or just playing stupid. He asks Victor if he truly understands the situation he's in, and whether he really thinks Logan is as weak as that petty slave merchant. He admits that it's great the boy has fighting spirit, but warns him to choose his opponents more wisely. Logan tells him this will be his last warning. Logan tells Victor that if he obeys, both he and his little sister will be safe. But if something like this happens again, he will get rid of them both. He drops Victor, thinking that is enough, and then adds that he intends to foster him as a knight. Startled, Victor asks if Logan really means him. Logan confirms it, explaining that knights are honorary nobles, which means Victor will be able to shed his slave status, and not just him, but his sister as well. Hearing this, Victor looks at his sister and vows that he'll do whatever it takes. Logan studies them both and confirms his suspicion. The girl is the key to controlling the noble slayer's violent nature. He tells them that training will begin as soon as they return home. Then he calls Hamar the dwarf forward. Logan informs Hamar that he will draft a magical contract. If Hamar works for him for the next 20 years, he will be allowed to return to his mountain homeland. Hamar is stunned, barely believing that Logan would actually promise to send him back to his people. Logan adds that it's hard to trust promises made with mere words in the air, and asks if Hamar has any objections. With shining eyes, Hamar gratefully replies that he wants this with all his heart, and that he'll do anything Logan commands. He thanks Logan again, admitting he didn't think he'd ever hear such a promise. Logan thinks to himself that if a contract alone is enough to motivate the dwarf, then he's the one profiting here. He acknowledges that he gained everything he could have hoped for from this outing and even more, having managed to secure the future noble slayer. To himself, he notes that preparations for the coming war between the thieves are going smoothly. But what Logan doesn't realize is that while he was away, rumors of his strange behavior had already spread across all of the McLean lands. His reputation had hit rock bottom, sinking underground, while Rick was left drowning in the chaos, desperately trying to make amends and wondering in frustration, what the hell is Logan up to next? It appears that Logan has returned home. Logan looks at Rick and asks him how he has been. Rick nearly has a stroke at the question and replies by asking if Logan is being serious. He continues, demanding to know what Logan has been up to while he was gone, and whether he has heard the rumors circulating about him, that he is a perverted monster who spends 150,000 gold on monster meat. As it turns out, just a few days earlier, Philip had gathered all the merchants he could find and told them he wanted to buy monster meat in the name of the young master, Logan McLean. By that time, people had already heard about Logan, how his engagement was broken, and how he humiliated his fiancée. Philip himself spread strange rumors about monster meat in order to increase the number of sellers, not realizing that his master, Logan, already carried such a bad reputation. He thought Logan was simply a crazy scumbag. Philip, however, saw an opportunity in those rumors. He set the price of monster meat as low as he could while still drawing merchants in 1 gold per kilo, and told them no merchant would refuse to sell trash to a scumbag willing to pay for it. He added that if they wanted money, they should bring him all the monster meat they could find. Philip's aggressive tactics caused merchants to flood in with monster meat, and rumors about Logan spread rapidly throughout the thieves near Kyle as well. Hearing all this, Logan comments that Philip has done his job perfectly. Rick is stunned and cannot understand how Logan can laugh in such a moment. He tells Logan to look at the faces of those who returned with him and think of how many rumors they must have heard to be staring at him like that. Logan replies calmly that Rick should not worry, as everything will soon be over. But Rick warns him that he should not be so relaxed, since next he has to face Patrick, who is furious. In his father's study, Patrick asks Logan if he enjoyed running away from home. Logan answers that it was indeed a rewarding trip. Patrick tells him that he has heard rumors about his crazy behavior, but is at least glad that it was somehow rewarding. Logan defends himself, insisting that rumors are nothing more than senseless lies and that he feels no shame for his actions. At that point, his stepmother speaks, telling Patrick that it is just as she's always said. Logan has no awareness of his position or of how his actions dishonor the family name. However, Logan does not let her finish and cuts in by replying that what she says is a bit excessive, as he merely spent the money from his engagement break as he saw fit. Marion intervenes again, asking Patrick if he heard what he is saying and if he still sides with him after all that, but Patrick shouts that this is enough and kindly asks her to leave as he wants to speak to Logan alone. For a moment, Patrick tells Logan that this will be the last warning he is given. Logan looks afraid as he stands before his furious father. Patrick asks Logan what he is thinking and tells him that they need to have a frank chat about what is going on with him. Logan introspects and says that his father will not let his actions slide this time, and goes on to tell Patrick that he would not understand even if he told him. Patrick replies by asking Logan if, by any chance, it is not him who does not want to be understood, and if Logan realizes what people around him are saying, that he is violent, cruel, money-obsessed, and even insane. He goes on to ask Logan how much longer he has to cover for him, and if there is a time in the future that he begs him to give Patrick a notice. That way he can at least make the excuse that he tried his best for the sake of Logan's dead mother. Logan thinks that he cannot believe Patrick brought up his mother in the conversation, since he never mentioned her in his previous life, not even when he was kicked out, and how maybe Patrick has not fully let go of his hopes for him yet. Logan asks his father to give him 1 year and tells him that in a year he will prove to Patrick the reasons for his actions, and once again asks him to grant him this last favor. Next, we see Patrick alone in his chamber, thinking about what just happened, acknowledging how strange the word favor sounds between a parent and child, and thinking that if Logan has not proven his words after a year, that he will have to make a decision, as he is Patrick of McCline before he is a father. A picture of Logan's mother appears to Raina, to which Patrick apologizes, saying that he does not understand what is going on with their son. Patrick monologues that he promised to protect him at all costs and to raise him well, but in the end, he was too neglectful. As he walks the castle halls, Logan meets his younger brother, and what he sees leaves him stunned. Lonane has awakened the Force. Lonane tells Logan that just as he thought, Logan caught up with him right away. Logan is happy to see that Lonane has awakened the Force at such a young age, just 14 years old, and thinks that in his previous life, Rand's Force did not awaken until the war between the thieves, but it awakened so quickly this time. Lonane tells Logan that it is all thanks to him, and Logan does not understand what he means by that. Then Lonane goes on to say that the Knights were stopping him from meeting Logan when he returned, and that is when he awakened. It appears that he defeated the Knights in the process of trying to meet with Logan. Logan starts laughing and tells Lonane that he did a great job, and thinks that if he teaches Lonane the divine sword secrets as soon as the Force stabilizes, then he can become much stronger than he was in his past life. At a cottage in the south of the McCline estate, Logan goes to meet Dwayne, and he tells Logan that the 35 C-rank mercenaries he was asked to recruit are all there. It appears that the mercenaries are mad at Logan, asking themselves if this whole thing is not some kind of scam, since they were called there 10 days ago, and until then, they had never met Logan. One of them even remarks that a lowly baron family would not dare to begrudge a mercenary guild unless they are crazy, and another one comments that they may never know, as the rumors about Logan have even reached them as well, and they are bad enough. Then they go on to comment on Logan's appearance, how he is carrying a sword and armor, trying to act like a soldier. Hearing everything, Logan thinks he has to pull on the reins with these rascals that fight for a living, or he will never get through to them. Logan then addresses one of the mercenaries and asks him if he thinks that wearing armor and carrying a sword is funny, to which the guy replies that he does not understand what he means by that, and thinks about how Logan could hear his comment from over there. Logan goes on to mock the guy by saying that he can for sure think that, but only if he has the skills to back it up. Then he tells the guy that he is only a lowly C-rank mercenary, and asks him what non-existent skills of his give him the right to look down on others. He then rhetorically asks if he offended him, acknowledging that even a lowly man like him has pride, and tells him to step forward. Logan then makes a bargain with the guy, telling him that if he manages to hit even a single blow on him, he will let him leave right then and also pay him an entire year's worth of money, making it a promise with the honor of a noble at stake, and says that everyone there is a witness. The mercenary steps forward and tells him that everything being said is great for him, since now he cannot go back on his word, and looks down on Logan, trying to scare him. How could you scare anything with that ape face though? The crowd starts to comment on the mercenary's size and ask themselves if he might perhaps be a B ranker, to which another guy replies that he is not yet, but he might get there after this job. Hearing this, Logan huffs and realizes that this must be the reason the mercenary is so confident. The mercenary tells Logan to take the first blow, and Logan replies by telling him that he will regret this decision. However, the mercenary disregards the danger, telling Logan that he has been using a sword so much longer than him, so he should not worry about that, and asks Logan if he needs the upper hand by any chance. That is when Logan charges his force and punches the guy in the face. Everyone is stunned to see the sheer force of this blow, and it seems that Logan ended this duel in one strike, leaving the guy dead on the ground with his teeth flying into the sky. The other mercenaries look in disbelief while Logan simply stretches his shoulder, huffs, and asks if there is anyone else who wants to run their mouth for no good reason. The rest of the mercenaries can't believe he's a force user, especially at his age, and honestly, they think it's kind of ridiculous. Kai looks at Logan, thinking he always knew the kid was a bit different, but never imagined he was this good. Logan then makes it clear no one's allowed to comment again, ever. After that, he introduces himself properly as Logan, the guy who called them there. He says they're probably all wondering why he's throwing gold around like it's confetti and hiring a bunch of mercs. The answer: he wants to train them as crossbow cavalrymen. That gets some eyebrows up. Dwayne and Kai are surprised, and the mercenaries aren't sure whether to laugh or walk away. One of them even mutters something about how they'll spend more time reloading than fighting. Kai leans over and quietly tells Logan that crossbows really aren't great for cavalry, which Logan says he already knows. Kai, confused, asks why he trained them with crossbows then. Logan explains that sure, bows are faster, but crossbows hit a lot harder. The problem is that a newbie takes over a minute just to reload one, and if you're on a horse carrying 3 or 4, you're still out of firepower in about a minute. So yeah, he gets why they're confused. Logan then tells Kai that even if it looks like he's just playing soldier with daddy's money, there's a real reason behind it. He plans to train them thoroughly and says Kai will understand why soon enough. He finishes by saying that crossbow cavalrymen might end up being a key force for McCline even after the upcoming war with the thieves. Kai still looks unsure but agrees to follow his master's lead. A few days later, Logan reviews the numbers. Out of 350 mercs, 312 passed the basic qualifications. That's good enough for now. Just then, someone interrupts him. It's Hamar, who wants to know what the heck is on the piece of paper Logan gave him. Logan says it's a schematic of the crossbow he once built. He admits it probably looks rough to a professional, but it's a weapon he used for decades in his past life. He's sketched out everything he can remember and says Hamar should be able to handle the rest. Hamar looks it over and says he needs to add a cartridge in the back to hold the bolts and get it to auto-load. He says it also has to fire 3 shots in a row, then asks a completely deadpan person who came up with such a dumb idea. Logan casually replies, "Me." Hamar just stares at him like he's lost his mind. But then Hamar says it's actually a brilliant idea, but the twisted string in that design won't last and will probably snap. Also, putting a wooden box behind it will make it super uncomfortable for the shooter. He asks what Logan plans to do about that. Logan says, "Not my problem. That's your job." Hamar looks like he's about to explode, so Logan quickly laughs and says he's joking. He then suggests shrinking the bolt to make the cartridge smaller and agrees that yeah, it's basically a one-and-done kind of weapon. So instead they'll make preloaded cartridges and swap them out after every shot. He says they'll call them magazines for convenience. Hamar hears that and freezes. He says even the best crossbowman can barely fire 2 bolts a minute, and what Logan's describing sounds like something from another era. Logan thinks to himself, that's because it is. Hamar starts pacing, muttering that all it takes is a spring, some glue, and bowstring, and suddenly he's fired up. Says it's a crazy challenge, but he's in. Logan asks when it'll be done. Hamar blinks and says he wants a deadline. For something he has never seen before, Logan shrugs and says it's still a weapon made by people. Hamar, now suspicious, asks where and who made it. Logan just waves him off and says he doesn't need to know, then teases him by saying if he thinks it's too hard, he should just give up. Hamar's pride flares and he snaps back that he'll make something even better in 1 month. Logan grins, nothing like poking a dwarf's ego to get results. Later, out in the castle training grounds, Victor is running laps and Logan tells him he's slowing down again. Victor pushes himself to run faster. Logan watches and reflects on how he's just been feeding the kid and letting him rest since he arrived, but the difference already is insane. Then he tells Victor to stop and rest. His little sister runs over to him and Logan can't help but think he really made a smart investment. A 14-year-old, way smaller than the other boys, just ran 20 kilometers without stopping. The kid is gifted, but what Logan admires most is his grit. That sheer perseverance. He figures Victor probably didn't become a slayer by nature. That transformation was probably all for his sister. He cuts off the thought and tells Victor that break time's over. He tosses him a sword and says they'll start training in the Grandia Kingdom's official sword technique, the one every knight trainee learns, and he gets ready to demonstrate. He grips his sword and slashes the air with strength and precision. Victor watches, but he looks more ready to drop dead than impressed. All he wants right now is sleep. Still, he bites his lip and thinks if the price of good food and sleep is total exhaustion, then he'll pay it. He picks up his sword and copies the movement exactly, slicing the air perfectly. Logan's eyes widened. The kid didn't just mimic the move. He matched the timing as well as the breath after seeing it once. Logan thinks not even Lonian was that good and they're the same age. He tells Victor that if he can keep building stamina and perform that technique 1,000 times in a row, he could probably call himself a knight. Victor's eyes light up, imagining that future. Logan asks if he thinks he can do it, and Victor immediately says yes. Logan tells him if he needs anything for training, he can ask Rick, but Victor says he doesn't need anything. Logan double checks and Victor says his only request is that Logan look after his sister. That's all he needs. Logan smiles. That's a perfect answer. While training Victor, Logan thinks that the boy might not be ready for war just yet, but he'll definitely be a powerful asset to McCline someday. He also believes the mercenary course and the crossbow Hammer is making could become a massive force, but he knows he can't rely on hope. Hamar might not succeed and the mercs might not be able to handle the weapon even if he does. He's put too much into others' hands and needs a backup plan. So he heads into his father's study and tells him he wants to join the knight's training. His father seems to accept the request. On the knight's training grounds, Captain Heinkel makes Logan's presence known to the other knights, telling them that he will be joining the training from now on. It appears that the knights don't take this news lightly, chattering to each other thinking that Logan might take the knight's order as a joke since he won against Dominion. A memory of the captain appears where they talk about Logan joining the order and the captain doesn't seem to be happy about it. He indeed tells Patrick that if Logan joins the order, the knights won't be happy. However, Patrick tells Heinkel that he's not asking for preferential treatment and actually tells him to grill Logan through and through as he would do to any rookie knight. In the present, Heinkel thinks that even though Patrick asked him that he is still the Lord's son, and that it would have been easier if Patrick had asked him to treat Logan nicely. Logan tells him not to worry as if he falls behind on any single training drill the knight ordered during the next week, then he'll just pretend this never happened and get out of his way. Heinkel is shocked by this and agrees with Logan. Upon hearing this, he decides that for the next week, the knight's order training will be at triple the difficulty level. Next, a knight is seen carrying one of his peers on his back while running and wondering what the hell kind of training is this. Heinkel shouts at his pupils not to die on him and tells them that they are cavalry knights and they cannot be oblivious to what it feels like to be a horse. He tells them to feel what it feels like to be the horse that carries them through the battlefield while he's fully armored. The knights realize that this is the reason for which they have been training in full armor and also say that all this is happening because of that damn troublemaker. They speculate for how long Logan might last with this training, a day, 2 or maybe 3. However, they all might be wrong. This bro is running at full speed, storming through the crowd, leaving everyone astounded, even the captain. And to top it all off, he's also smiling while doing that. Heinkel is furious, thinking that at this rate it will be the knights that fall behind instead of Logan. That being said, he tells everyone to stop and take a 10-minute break. He then goes on to ask Logan how he's doing and asks if he is tired after that run. However, what he's actually thinking is that all Logan's got to do is give him an honest answer, and he can ditch this crazy-ass training. But he doesn't get to finish his thought as Logan cuts in and tells him that it's doable, leaving Heinkel stunned. He asks Logan what he means, and Logan replies that it's great training, and if knights go through this every day, there's no way they're not strong. He then tells Heinkel that he looks forward to the next training. Heinkel thinks that this isn't what he was going for, and Logan once again looks unbothered. Late in the night, Logan looks around that all of the knights must have returned home. He then goes on thinking that training with the knights is his insurance policy in case all of his plans fail, saying that if that happens, he'll join the knights and fight on the front line, so he might as well start to form a bond. Another reason for which he is doing this is his strength, as he can develop his force through meditation. But what is also important is to train his body. That's where the knight's order comes in handy, and just as he thought, as his force core is growing, he doesn't feel fatigued. He picks up his sword, and in one quick slash, he releases a slash of force, thus demonstrating his power. He thinks of how he has all this force, and it's just from a 1-star core, and thinks that once he reaches 2 stars, he'll have the power to rival a high-ranking knight like his father. In the morning, he tests crossbows, deeming all of them failures, and asks Hamar if this is all he can do. He then inquires about the thread he ordered and says that this thing can only shoot 1 round, and he's not seen the magazine either, and tells Hamar that it needs to be integrated. Hamar is furious, and Logan goes on to apologize, saying that he went a bit too far, to which Hamar replies that he is right, and even if Logan is his master, he should never insult a craftsman's pride. However, what Logan actually means is that if this is really Hamar's best, then there is nothing they can do. Logan goes on to say that maybe he expected too much of him since it's been weeks of work and there's nothing he managed to do right. Thus, Logan is at fault here. He taunts Hamar even more by telling him that he judged him incorrectly, saying that he spent all that money on him for nothing. This motivates Hamar and tells Logan that he needs 1 more month and that he will come back in 1 month with something worth Logan's while, and furiously crushes the crossbow in his hand. Logan looks at Hamar as he leaves and thinks of how angry he got and about how that made him start all over again from scratch, and then puts on a gruesome smile, wondering if Hamar will come up with something amazing if he grills him more. 1 month later, on one of the training grounds, Hamar demonstrates the power of his new and improved crossbow, which shoots 2 arrows at once. Hamar's invention leaves Logan stunned, and Hamar goes on to say that this one is easier to hold in one hand, and you can change magazines. Logan is amazed at how it only took him 2 seconds to load and fire, thinks that it has less effective range than the weapon in his previous life, and it's smaller. But for a mounted soldier, this one's much better, or actually it's outperforming, and he can't believe that they've already got so far. and they are still months away from the war between the thieves. Hamar asks Logan if he is listening to him, and Logan picks him up and tells him what a wonderful job he has done, continuing to boast about the dwarves and wishing long life to Hamar. The dwarf Hamar is not as happy as Logan since he thinks that someone might see them and tells Logan that he is not a kid wishing to be put down. Logan peacefully looks into Hamar's eyes, prepared to ask him a question, and when Hamar asks what it is, Logan slips back into his psychotic self and tells Hamar that he needs 400 of these in 2 months. Logan gives Kai and the other mercenaries the crossbows, and they are all amazed by how far the dart goes and by the fact that they shoot consecutive shots as well. Kai looks down at the invention and asks himself how a crossbow could even do such a thing. A muzzle-loading crossbow of this range, power, and speed. With this, an army of 300 or more mounted troops could do incredible things. Kai realizes that this was Logan's plan all along, and Logan tells him that he is correct. Logan goes on to think that Hamar went through quite a hard time. Even though Logan had extra craftsmen assist him, he never expected Hamar to complete the order 2 weeks ahead of schedule and even make 100 extra crossbows. Logan says that he'd also like to share this with the knights and soldiers, but there is the issue of funds and the possible leak of technology, so he decides he should hold off on that for now. Logan tells Kai to equip the mercenaries with crossbows and clear out the monsters from outside the territory, but Kai thinks that is impossible. However, Logan is sure they can do it. Kai tells Logan that it might be possible, but Logan isn't satisfied with this and tells Kai to make it possible because if he can't do that, everything else is meaningless. Kai thinks that Logan wouldn't have made a weapon like this just to subjugate monsters and realizes that Logan is preparing for war. At the knight's training session, one knight comments on what tremendous stamina Logan has and someone else asks if that ridiculous physical ability is genetic. Another knight says that if Logan is anything like Patrick, he must be good with a sword. Then they comment about Logan's fight with Dominion, and one of the knights tells the others they shouldn't even dare to compare this kid to the old man, as Logan even lost his little brother before awakening. However, despite that, it's kind of amazing how he has been consistently enduring the training for over a month. The training that was initially designed to drive Logan away has now solidified as the new symbol of the Knight's Order. It is tiring, but it's way more rewarding than just running, and this feels like the right level of training fitting for a Knight's Order. It becomes an unexpected stimulus for the low-ranked knights who had been taking it easy in training, and also the knights begin to truly understand and empathize with their horses. The bonds among the knights are strengthened as well. Heikel thinks that he merely persisted with the training since the first young master wouldn't quit, but he still can't believe all these results. His lucky charm had walked in on its own 2 feet. At night in his room, Logan thinks that after pushing his body hard with training, he will stimulate his internal consciousness with meditation. Therefore, the iterations are synergizing with each other, and he's making solid progress. Lately, he's been seeing signs of a shift in the Force. If he can improve his martial powers, then as per his expectations, he can surpass all the monsters he saw in his previous life. That's when something unexpected happens. Logan's core grows and he starts saying some gibberish. As the core completes its circle, Logan's core becomes a 2-star core. Logan now has the basics to learn the next secret technique of the Sword Secret's Iron/Killer. Just considering the power that the first technique gave him, he is sure the second technique will be far more powerful than expected. And if he can just master that technique before the war, then even a high-ranking knight wouldn't scare him. Next, Kai and the other mercenaries are hunting a pack of goblins. His troops shoot the goblins, killing them instantaneously and remarking upon how there's hardly any recoil on those crossbows. One guy says that his dart went through one goblin's head and plunged into the head of another goblin behind him. Logan thinks that the swarm of over 100 monsters was wiped out in under 10 seconds. He thinks that the mercenaries' old habits of using basic crossbows have been broken quite a bit, and that they're much faster at changing magazines. He tells himself that it was worth the effort to come for the hunt so far into the territory. Kai asks Logan if he is satisfied, and Logan tells him that he is somewhat satisfied and remarks how they were a complete mess during the first monster hunt, but they've gotten so much better. After that, Kai asks Logan why he is doing all of these preparations, saying that he's never heard of a mercenary army with this much firepower. He asks Logan if he is planning on slaying monsters all over the continent. However, Logan does not get to answer Kai as a mounted rider rushes to get a message from Rick through to Logan. It appears that yesterday the Viscounty of Teslan declared war against the House of McLean. Inside the McLean war room, Patrick and the other higher-ups of the family are watching a crystal ball as Viscount Teslan talks about the grudge of his ancestor and how he blames the House of McLean for his wrongful death, which leaves Patrick stunned. Some nobles start whispering to each other, wondering if what Teslan is saying actually counts as a reason for war. Heinkel and Marion ask Patrick what he plans to do, and Heinkel points out that even just the Knight's Order from the Viscount of Teslan already has way more soldiers than they do, and even with Padrick on the battlefield, their chances of winning are low. Then one of the nobles throws out the idea that maybe they should focus on guarding the city and calling for reinforcements. But that option sounds bad, because if they do that, the knights who can use force will be pushed back and the inside of the city will fall into chaos. Another guy says they could try sending an envoy to propose peace, but Padrick suddenly snaps and yells at everyone to shut up. He explains that even if the royal family's authority isn't what it used to be, Teslan didn't even bother to ask for permission before declaring war, which makes it obvious that this was all planned ahead, so peace is definitely off the table. He tells everyone to get ready for war and orders his generals to come up with a winning strategy because he won't allow any talk of surrender. After the room goes quiet, one of the nobles nervously asks if the young masters are going to war too, and Padrick says yes. Marion adds that Lonian's force is awakened and Logan is old enough to fight now, so he should do his part. She also reminds them that both of them were part of training and are force users. Rick suddenly realizes Logan isn't even at the castle and quickly rushes to send an envoy to inform him. After being brought up to speed, Logan starts thinking that in his past life, the war wasn't supposed to begin for another 2 months and wonders what could have sped things up. The envoy keeps urging him to hurry since the Visconti broke every custom and moved their troops right after declaring war, so Logan needs to move fast if he wants to make it in time for the middle of the battle. Kai and the others shout that the Logan mercenary troops are ready whenever, and when he hears that, Logan looks at Kai and says he doesn't seem all that shocked by what's going on. Kai just replies that for a mercenary, if there's no war, they'll start one. He says they've got their hands on a great weapon now, so of course they want to use it. Logan looks over his army and thinks they're way too confident, but he gets it because they've trained hard the past few months and completely wiped out waves of monsters. He says it doesn't matter when the war starts because the only thing they need to do is win. He believes they already have enough combat power, so he gives the command for the troops to march toward the Macline Plains, confident that this war will end in victory. Back at the barony, the war starts even sooner than the Maclines expected. The very next day after the declaration of war, Teslan's forces show up at the Macline estate, and their numbers are way higher than what the vassals expected. Captain Heinkel tells Padrick that the Viscount's army includes 100 knights, over 1,000 regular troops, and almost 10,000 conscripts, and says this is clearly an all-out war. Padrick hears this and thinks Teslan has gone completely mad. He isn't just bringing elite knights who are like superhumans to an internal battle, but he's also using conscripts, even though this isn't a war between nations but a feud between nobles. That makes Padrick ask himself why the Viscount Hammond is going to such extremes. Then things get worse. The captain tells Padrick that the House of Karras said they won't be sending any troops, which leaves both Padrick and Marion speechless. Marion refuses to believe it and says this has to be some mistake. The captain says Miss Duane confirmed the news, and she starts arguing hard that she already checked with them and everything had been settled, and that this should not be happening. With no better option, Padrick tells Heinkel to gather anyone who carry a weapon, because they're going to respond to this attack with full force. Padrick can't believe that Karras turned their backs on them, and with no other choice, the Maclines gather every man they can find. They manage to bring together 53 knights, 552 regular soldiers, and 4418 conscripts for a total of 5023 troops, but that number is still less than half of what the Teslan army has. On the battlefield, one soldier asks where the first young master Logan is, and another says he left a while ago and hasn't come back. A few of them start saying maybe he's not coming back and maybe he ran away. Lonian hears that and turns around to tell them they don't know what they're talking about and that Logan would never run. He remembers that Logan saw this war coming and taught him a secret move because of it, and there's just no way he'd flee. Some of the other soldiers hear what Lonian says and start to think that maybe the rumors are true that the Lord's son actually ran away. After that, Padrick tells his younger son that he has to take on the role of his brother now and says he can't waver no matter what. Padrick thinks he doesn't want to believe the rumors either, but that doesn't matter anymore because the only thing that matters is winning. So he commands all of his troops to charge forward and crush the enemies attacking their home. Then Teslan sees Padrick draw his sword and shouts that the time has come and that Padrick's knights are his sword and tells him to face them. Padrick charges with his aura ready and tries to break through the enemy vanguard, but he's shocked when a knight with a shield blocks his strike, leaving him stunned. Thanks for watching, everyone. Since you made it all the way to the end, smash that red subscribe button and hit like to show your support, and see you in the next one.